Chapter 3. Summer woke to find that she was lying next to Jackson, with his head on her breasts and both hands around her waist. He had had a bad night. She took his hands away, and she slid from his embrace and he fell into the pillow, still asleep. It reminded her of when she was 18, and discovered that she had fallen asleep in Jackson's arms when she had gone to his party. The only difference now, though, was that this was not Jackson, her first love, but was Adam, the man she had given a name to, a complete stranger to her. Her teenage years were behind her. She was a woman now. Gazing down on him with his arms wrapped around the pillow, she thought of the night she decided to go with Tiffany to Jackson's infamous, notorious, scandalous party. She had spent the entire day getting ready for the event, which would be filled with senior boys and girls, and although she knew she should not be there, she could not resist the pull of being Jackson. Most girls would kill to be in his company. "Are you sure your parents won't mind me spending the night?" Summer asked Tiffany. "My parents would let me go to the moon if my big sister asked. She has what you call a pleasing personality. At least that's what the girls in her senior class say. They don't have to live with her, if you know what I mean," Tiffany said with a grin. "You never know when she's lying because she always smiles. They trust her with everything, and because she's the firstborn, in my parents' eyes she can't do no wrong," Tiffany said, lathering on a second coat of lipstick. "But can she fool my parents?" Summer questioned. It would be the first time that Summer would be deceitful to her parents, and she didn't want them to find out. She promised that she would never do this again. But she just wanted one more kiss from Jackson, and she could die happy. Summer wanted to feel like a teenager for once. She needed one more day to look into Jackson's blue eyes. No, she needed one more day to feel his hands touch her young, hot, aching body, and she would be happy for a lifetime if she never saw him again, which she probably wouldn't. Why not take the chance, she thought. She rationalized that she could live on these memories when she became old. She could sit and smile to herself and know that she was kissed by the most handsome boy in the entire world. And if anyone asked why she smiled on her last days on Earth, it would be because of Jackson Van Hughes. Summer's thoughts were interrupted by Tiffany. "My sister could fool the Pope into thinking she was a nun," Tiffany said, secure in the thought that Summer's parents would never discover that they had gone to a party given by senior boys. "Wait a minute, you're not going to wear that?" Tiffany chewed her gum faster, throwing Summer's clothes on the bed. "What's wrong with this?" Summer looked down on her white linen set. "For one, your clothes scream, 'I'm a virgin,'" Tiffany said, pulling out a short skirt and a low-cut blouse from her closet. "If you want Jackson to leave you alone, you have to look like a slut." "Like you look now?" Summer questioned. "Precisely. And I'm proud of it." Saturday, Summer convinced her parents to go to a party on her birthday. Summer and Tiffany arrived at Jackson's house. "Who can afford to live in a place like this?" "Jackson. He's so rich," Tiffany said, bouncing in the front seat of her sister's car. "I'm in way over my head," Summer said. "Only if you're planning on marrying him. You don't even know if he'll remember you." With a load of girls clamoring after him, waiting for their chance to sleep with him, and the ones that send death threats to his potential girlfriends whom he has slept with, I wouldn't want him remembering me. It's just asking for trouble. "Let's just have a good time and get home early," Tiffany said. "It can't be that bad, can it?" Summer questioned in a naive voice. One girl who slept with Jackson was terrorized on Facebook afterward. She almost committed suicide until Jackson confronted the other girls and made them stop harassing her. "He's not a complete dick," Tiffany's sister chimed in, taking her eyes off the winding road for a moment. "All he had to do was say they would never be invited to his parties again. That did it. You should have seen them scrambling to erase their Facebook rants," Tiffany added. "My father says it's a case of too much money, too young, too handsome, and too arrogant." He needs to go to Iraq or Afghanistan. That will take the wind out of his sails, Tiffany's sister added. Look, if you and Summer want to go home early, text me. Bo and I will drive you home. What are we going to tell your parents? Summer asked. Our mom and dad are gone for the weekend to Lake Tahoe, Tiffany said, smiling. When the car came to a stop, Summer and Tiffany jumped out. Summer's legs were shaking and her hands trembling as they strolled into the luxurious home. Jackson, who was sitting and looking elegant on a stool at his bar with a drink in his hand, was surrounded by 4 beautiful blondes and 3 handsome football jocks. Jackson looked up and locked eyes with Summer. He moved away from the crowd with its laughter and music, leaving one beautiful blonde girl weeping. He saw only Summer, and he did remember her. Summer pulled the covers to his chest and stood looking down at him a few more minutes. His eyes were closed tight and he slept with his dark glasses on. When she tried to look at his eyes, he would turn away. She couldn't see him if she couldn't look into his eyes. Perhaps his eyes were dead, she thought. Perhaps his eyes told another truth, that he was lost without her. But the doctor did say that he might still be able to see again. There was hope. She would take him to see the optometrist on the next visit and ask questions. Summer exited Jackson's room and closed the door. She prepared breakfast, making everything easy for him to reach, and then she knocked on his door. To her surprise, he had showered and was dressed and ready to go to the beach. You need something to eat, Adam. A big strapping man like you must be hungry all the time. I admit I'm hungry. I remember eating and exercising a lot. I can see that. Summer touched his biceps. She could feel her body react as she caressed his arms. A warm sensation crept down her legs. How hard and strong his arms felt. If he remembered exercising, maybe there was hope of him regaining his memory, she thought. You can't wear that to the beach, she said, laughing at his attire. His shirt was red and black, and his pants were green and black. You look like a Christmas tree. His shoes were army-issued and appeared 2 sizes too big. She ran into the room and came out with a bag. I picked these up last night. That's why I was late. She put his hand in the bag and he pulled out a pair of shorts, a blue floral shirt that also had seashells in the design, and a pair of brown sandals. Now you're ready for the beach. What, no swim trunks? He asked. Summer placed his hands on the swim trunks lying on a chair and took the price tag off. He grabbed them and immediately began to undress. He took off his belt, unzipping his oversized pants and letting them fall to the floor. Summer got a revealing look at his rock-hard butt, with muscles in the calves of his endless long legs. Summer blushed at the sight of his amazing body. His entire torso was rock-hard. Wow. What have you been doing all your life? Realizing that he had undressed in front of Summer, he hurried and pulled up his shorts. I'm sorry, Summer. I guess I've been around men too long. No problem. Remember, I've seen you naked, but out of respect for you, I turned my head. She lied smoothly, but in fact, she took in every mouth-watering part of his body. Clearly, the injury that he had sustained did not affect the important parts, she thought. His naked body had reacted to the cool room, and unconscious arousal seeped through him. After tightening the strings on his beach shorts, he reached into the bag. You didn't take out everything, he said, pulling out a straw hat and placing it on his head. Summer couldn't help but laugh, taking the hat off his head. You have to lose the hat. It's for me, she said, shaking her head. Here's a baseball cap. She straightened it on his head. Now that looks great. Eat your breakfast. Driving on 45 East headed to Galveston was slow going because of the construction and the beautiful sunny, cool, calm day, which brought out throngs of beach lovers. Convertible tops were down. The old and young were after the same thing Summer and Jackson were seeking, sun and a little fun. Jackson wore a serious face behind his dark glasses. He had resigned himself to being lonely and depressed. But he learned that being with Summer, he was neither. He enjoyed her company, but he was sure it wouldn't last. Summer parked and led Jackson down the steps to the sand. She laid 2 blankets out. The sand was cool and the water was warm. It was a perfect day for the young and in love. Jackson sat on one blanket and pulled off his shirt and shorts. Underneath he wore swim trunks. The sight of his body blinded Summer. It was the epitome of perfection, his chest filled with rows of muscles. "Summer, can you put some sunscreen on my back?" Jackson asked, lying on his stomach. Lost in her thoughts, Summer took out the bottle of sunscreen and poured some on his back. She rubbed his powerful shoulders and spread the oil down to his waist. She felt chills emerge on his skin, and she felt the power of his body. A man built like him must have someone who cared. She would have to retreat from him before she got hurt. She didn't agree to help him find his family because deep within her soul, she wanted him to herself. She knew what the results would be. Some woman would show up with children, begging him to come home. Looking out into the ocean, she thought of why she had gone to Jackson's party when she was a teen. Deep down inside she couldn't resist the temptation of wanting him all to herself. She knew it was a dream that would never come true. She didn't have the time, and he didn't have the maturity to want as much. Her gaze fell on Jackson. "Now let me put some on your back," he said, sitting up. She lay down on her stomach and he spread the oil over her shoulders, then he innocently untied her bikini top. His hands with his soothing and loving fingers slid across her back, and when he instinctively moved his hands down to her butt, she placed her hand over his to prevent him from going further. She stopped him not because she didn't like it. She stopped him because she enjoyed what he was doing to her too much. "I can do the rest," Summer said, taking the bottle of oil. He helped girls take off their bras. It's what he did. "Why am I remembering this?" he questioned. It flashed through his mind and disappeared like a wisp of cold air. He sat up. "I think I'm beginning to remember some things." "What is it, Adam?" "It was something you said." His forehead knitted and a frown crossed his face. He tried to remember the face of the girl, but it wouldn't come. "I guess it was nothing. It was a statement a girl once said." "But that's a good sign, isn't it?" Summer said, hoping he could remember something, anything to alleviate his mental pain. "I guess so," he said, lying down on his back. Summer peeked at Jackson, and she caught him reaching for her hand. But they were not lovers, and she wouldn't give him that impression. She eased further away from him. Jackson thought Summer detested him. Maybe it was because she saddled herself with a blind man. For now he couldn't buy food. He didn't feel like a man but a child. He had nothing, and he couldn't see or remember who he was. What could a pretty young girl want with him? She had a beautiful body, he could tell when his fingers skimmed across her skin. It felt soft, flawless, and youthful. Her waist, small and delicate. Her hips shapely. Why would she want him to even touch her, he thought. He had nothing to offer. They had been lying on the beach for a half hour when Jackson called out to Summer. When she didn't answer, he touched her arm. She was tired and had been sleeping quietly. He missed her conversation. She opened her eyes. "I didn't know you were sleeping. You were so quiet. Do you want to go for a swim?" Jackson asked. "Will you be okay?" "Sure. I'm blind and can't remember a damn thing, but I think I can swim." "How do you know?" Summer stood gazing at him with her hand shadowing her eyes. "Maybe you can't?" "You may be right, but there is only one way to find out." He jumped to his feet and threw his glasses to the side with a wide smile, grabbing Summer's hand, pulling her, leading her, and rushing into the water. He swam into the calm waves of the Gulf of Mexico. "I guess I can swim," he stated, grabbing onto Summer and kissing her lips. Surprised by the kiss, Summer pulled away. "Let's see how well," she said, passing him and swimming out to markers for deep water. They swam on and out, and when Summer thought they had gone too far, she screamed for him to come back and he didn't. She panicked and swam out to meet him, grabbing him and turning him around. "What are you trying to do?" she asked, breathing hard, sure it was not a mistake. "You're not getting off that easy. I know what you were trying to do. Let's get out of here. I need something to drink and eat." And she held on to him in silence until they reached the shore. Jackson wondered if Summer knew that he had planned on swimming out until he couldn't come back. When they reached the sand, her anger grew. "If you keep scaring me like that, Adam, no more beach for you," she said, pointing her finger at him, trying to make a joke of it but not succeeding. He knew now Summer cared. He thought that no one would care if he disappeared. He was tired of stumbling around in someone's life with no clue to who he really was. If he could see, maybe it would trigger some memories. The smell of the seawater brought back a memory, but it soon disappeared like everything else. He couldn't hold on to the memories long enough to piece together anything. If he had his sight, he would be satisfied. The doctors believed that he was preventing himself from seeing. Now more than ever, he wanted to see Summer's face. She reminded him of someone. If only he could remember who.